Hello there, welcome to my YouTube channel, which has not really started yet. This is the first video, and I'm going to introduce all of those videos like that, I think. Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. Smash the like and subscribe buttons. It's just tradition. Yeah, so this is my first YouTube video where I'm just sitting here talking, but I'm not going to be sitting here talking for long. You're here for the Q&A about the new single Why Should I Care and the new video with myself and Nick Gaven. So that's what I'm going to play for you right now, and you can watch that. And if you like it, leave a comment. If you don't want to miss out on other cool stuff like that, maybe if you want to actually attend one of these events in the future, you can join my mailing list, and then you can keep in touch and you'll be updated about all these events. Okay, here's the video. Enjoy.
Lovely. All right. So I guess while you all type up your questions, but let's get started with some of the questions that we've had before. So this one was from Midori. Got lovely comments here. I really like the aesthetic of the video. It's unsettling, totally gripping, and the interplay between the ink visuals and the space footage is really multidimensional. Where did the idea come from for the mannequin thing with the open mouth at 2:55? I think that's quite memorable. And how did you achieve the image at 4:30? I believe that one is where you make it seem like it's the moon.
Oh yeah, where we've kind of put the ink inside the moon.
Yeah.
So it was a very different process, this one, because I needed to call in some help from Jake, who worked on me a lot with this video. And a lot of the archive footage comes from his sort of incredible library of space footage and infomercials and various different things that he's found on open source. A lot of NASA stuff, because they made all of their archive available for free. So there's no copyright issues in this video, which is good because Jake's just got some sort of archive wizardry at work. So I basically called in some help from him, and he started putting together these cuts around this sort of general aesthetic of traveling to space. And his was a very sort of literal journey of, like, it initially started with planes, and then the planes kind of break into space and move out. And I wanted to do more of bring it inside the head, basically, and make it more of a mental process, a mental journey, represented through the sort of grandness of space. So when I saw that video, the one of the mouth where it's turning around is actually sort of NASA training footage of. There's loads of amazing stuff of astronauts on bikes and in these sort of sweat tanks and being spun around on centrifuges and being rocketed up into the air to test ejector seats and stuff like that. Wow. So it was just some of the shots that they seem to achieve from these weird camera moves, and just a different type of technology. There's this spinning head, and yeah, it was just within that sort of archive. And then the moon ink shot was basically just a bit of clever masking, where we'd shot these plates of ink going into a fish tank. I've got a big fish tank.
Yeah, the legendary fish tank.
Water. Yeah, we've used the fish tank on 2 videos now, actually.
We used it on the last video that we made together on my first single, Give Me Strength. We used the fish tank as well. It's got some
and I shot basically all of the stuff with Christy through this fish tank, and then bubbled stuff through to kind of create these different in-camera effects. So yeah, we just filmed these ink sort of templates where after we'd done the big drops that I've put in over the space shots, we just filmed the sort of like general swirling of the ink in the tank, and then I just masked that over this. It's from the moon, the first moon landing, that shot of Earth from the moon, And
Yeah,
so I did it.
It does look really amazing. It's quite
Thank
impressive.
you. Yeah, it took quite a bit of time because you've got to kind of draw around the shape to kind of color it in.
Yeah.
And that shot is so shaky because it's an astronaut walking on the moon shooting it.
Is that the shot that's called Moonrise? It's like got a tight. They sell it as like a thing.
It could be.
Moon, or not Moonrise, Earthrise. Sorry, obviously a Moonrise.
Yeah, it could
would be
be.
moon.
I don't know actually. That's where Jake would have come in useful, but he unfortunately he's a very shy guy, so he wasn't. He wasn't too keen on having to answer questions about his work.
So we touched on this a little bit, but Lisa was asking, how much did it cost to go to space for your video? Obviously, you mentioned that you had your that it was available to actually use your videos, but yeah, I guess what was the cost like?
Yeah, that we did it for probably about 50 quid. The ink's surprisingly expensive actually.
Yep.
And all of the sort of archive shots were just they were free, copyright free. So yeah,
I'm
and
sure
I guess the actual space footage cost very little, like the original stuff shot by Stanley Kubrick in the.
I was going to say we need to include NASA's budget into what we have to cost as well. Because without that, I wouldn't.
Yeah, a collaborative project.
Either that, or I mean, I bet Stanley Kubrick charged a lot of money to.
Yeah, I'm sure he
too, right? So
he did it for the love of the art.
No, that's really cool. Great. I guess Ed, I see you've got your hands raised, so go ahead and unmute yourself.
I do indeed. Thank you very much. Love the tune, love the vibes, love the space, loved how it all tied in together. We had themes of space exploration, themes of, I think, kind of pollution. I don't know if that was explicit, whether you meant that, but the ink and the smoke, as well as themes of war. And it seems connected with the lyric, it seems like quite a nihilistic, kind of observation of the state of the world and all the things we have. And it ends with, why should I care if my eyes are closed? So my question is two parts. My first part of my question is this, what kind of message is this sending? Is this like a parody? Is this a bit nihilistic? Is this to a call to action? Is there any positive in this story? And the second part of the question is, who then is the protagonist? Who is the hero? Are we presenting space as a solution, or are we presenting it as part of the answer? Basically, is Elon Musk the hero of this story?
Right, let's get heavy then.
You guys.
I can answer the question in terms of, like, from my point of view for the lyrics, but then I think maybe Nick's interpretation of that might be different. I don't know. So maybe it'd be interesting to see both of those.
Let's see.
Yeah. So for me, the lyrics are, you put it really well, are more of a call to action. It's in a sense, it was me putting myself, the why should I care? If my eyes are closed, I can't see you stare. I was sort of, and all of those lyrics, I was thinking about it in two different ways at once. The first was that I was imagining myself as somebody who is in a position of authority, who is making decisions that is really, really negatively impacting a lot of people, but they're so disconnected from that they don't see the impact, or they're aware of it, but they don't care anyway, right? But then at the same time, it was kind of like also something that I could relate to myself, because there's lots of things happening that I care about but don't do anything about, or don't care about as much as I should. So in a sense, it's a call to action for us. There's another voice that comes in that's saying, I am apathy, I can set you free, I'm apathy, won't you follow me? So it's kind of really a call to action to avoid that call from apathy, and to become more active and engaged, and try to start caring. Yeah, that's my take on it anyway. So
can I ask specifically, did the space exploration kind of aspect of it, did that feature when you were writing that lyrics, or was that
No, so that's completely Nick bringing this stuff
all
in.
Jake, actually.
It's all Jake. Okay, so I'll hand over to Nick for this.
Well, because Jake has all of this archive footage, and I went to him with a sort of, I'm actually kind of struggling to have any sort of, it was just a rough time at the beginning of the year, so I was just struggling to actually come up with any sort of interesting ideas that could actually be formed into a music video. So because sort of sent him the song and thought, like, how do you sort of see this? And yeah, he sent over a load of timelines of stuff that he had pieced together, and through a process of a couple of weeks, I was listening to the song more and more, and I just started seeing this very it's very floaty. So the initial idea I had was smoke drifting in the air at the beginning. That was the images that were coming to mind. And then when Jake sent over the space stuff, I had a few ideas about this ink in the tank and trying to bring in all of these colors. And the sort of main line that really struck me was that I am apathy line, and that sort of, I found that to be the sort of crux of the song, because it's sort of the turning point in the song as well. So I didn't really see it as as much of a commentary about our world in general. I was seeing it more as a sort of mental process of accessing the sort of the sublime in being, realizing sort of your insignificance and how amazing things are, and finding, sort of journeying towards that spark and that creativity, which is what I tried to contain within that earth shot. That's what is the point of the discovery and the point of the journey. And you mentioned the themes of war and stuff like that, and that for me was the sort of mental turmoil of, I guess, sort of what I was going through with just not being able to come up with any sort of fun ideas. And then through collaborating with Jake and him sending over these things, it sort of sparked that thing that the protagonist in the film is journeying towards.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I want to just add one other thing, which is just that I didn't give Nick or Jake really very much direction at all. I wanted them to kind of come up with their own interpretation of this, you know, like very much like, I quite like, I mean, I did, it was the same with the first video that I did with Nick as well. Like, I really would like see these music videos as collaborations, and, you know, it's like, what does the filmmaker come up with, you know, from the music that I've made, without me giving too much, you know, like of a story or anything like that. The same way that if I was writing a score for a filmmaker, I'd quite like to, at least at the beginning, not have too much direction from a filmmaker and just write something that was my own musical interpretation of that.
Yeah,
you know?
And that's what kind of made the experience so interesting, was the song is really, there's so many different movements within it, and it really did feel, especially when Jake and I were discussing things, we referred to the synth bit, you know, the
arpeggiator.
Arpeggiator. There you go. Will knows. We referred to that as the Blade Runner bit, just because it felt so like sort of the Blade Runner score, that sort of feel, and that also drove every sort of decision about the phases in the film we went through, was the phases in the music.
May I add one final question onto mine after what you're talking about? So for you, does the space travel, that element of it, does it represent hope for discovery or despair?
No, I think for me it's hope, definitely, because there's that thing that's reachable. There is something to be discovered almost.
Thank you very much. Nice, very interesting. Thank you both.
Good.
Yeah, great questions, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
William.
Yeah, really good.
William,
Hey guys, really, yeah, I'll put it
Hello.
down. Hello. Yeah, absolutely loved it. I'd seen the teasers and it was fab. So thanks, guys.
Thanks, Will.
The discussion also has been annoyingly good because I was going to ask about how you collaborated and what the process was like, and you kind of touched on that as well. But like, was that okay? So I'll change it slightly. How much, because you have to ask this question, but like, how has it been a product of lockdown? Have you found you've had to work differently as a result of it, or is it something where actually this works really well, kind of having two independent artistic interpretations of something and then just jamming them together at the end? Or do you think you'll want to, in the future, because obviously this is a strong partnership now with you two and the Fishbowl.
Yeah.
I love the Fishbowl.
Oh yeah,
us together. It's our wedding ring.
You're nothing without the Fishbowl, guys. I hate to break it to you.
I don't know how I'm going to make films with that Fishbowl in the crowd.
Yeah, like do you see yourself, when we can be a bit more open with it, like doing stuff where you're creating on the go and you're working together and you're using each other's ideas a bit more interactively?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was absolutely a product of lockdown, because the reason I was really struggling to come up with any sort of ideas is because I was so restricted with what I could actually do, because it was in the thick of lockdown at the beginning of the year. So we really, like Jake and I, couldn't even meet up to film things or to run through ideas. So we were having to do everything remotely. And when Chrissy initially asked me to do the video, it was, I was just stumped with, well, I can't get any cameras, I can't go shoot anywhere, Christy can't come down, so I can't film Christy in anything. And that's why Jake was really useful, in terms of him having this massive stock of stuff that we could kind of twist to form a narrative. And that was an interesting exercise, because I usually shoot all my own stuff. It's rare that I have to either edit other people's footage or just work with stuff that already exists. So it was a really interesting process, and we had to do everything through media transfer, where he'd send me over massive files overnight, and then I'd put them on my hard drive, and then I'd comb through them in the morning and send them over to him in the evening, and then he'd do it the next day. And it was just this back and forth of, luckily we had it on the same platform, so we were able to just drag and drop the project in. But that was also an interesting exercise in terms of data transfer and making sure one wasn't working on something while the other wasn't. And yeah.
I feel like a lot of your direction in this, apart from all the ink stuff, which I know you were doing, which is really cool, which was a lot of stuff, but I feel like you must have done a lot of editing to pull together to get that narrative together, right?
Yeah, a lot of it.
Yeah.
Jake did the majority of the archive stuff, and I'd send him over. I think it was a good as I say, I usually shoot my own stuff, so it was another interesting exercise in trying to kind of get someone to understand what I was trying to get across, a good exercise in language, because I'd say things like, make this more chaotic or something, and he'd do his interpretation of chaotic, and I'd be like, no, like forest fires and shit like that. But yeah, and then that's kind of how it came out of it, was just him sort of piecing together all of those archive bits, and then he sent it over to me, and then I layered over all of the ink stuff to just try and make it sort of have that vibrancy trickle in.
I think in terms of like asking about the collaborating, and would it be different if lockdown wasn't happening? I think maybe the process would be different, and the way in which you would go about making a film might be different. But in terms of the way I would interact, in terms of like leaving it up to you, you know, or I mean, I mean, we would maybe discuss some ideas and stuff like that, but I think whether there was a lockdown or not, I would want it to be very much like, you know, a big collaboration, right? And that was the plan with the first video, which we kind of organized just before lockdown, right? And then lockdown happened.
Yeah, we had a sort of vague plan for the first video. Yeah, that one we managed to do it just after lockdown was eased.
Yeah, in June.
And then for the second one, there just really wasn't any hope of being able to do it in person. So
yeah,
it would be a completely different film for me without lockdown. But I'd basically just send over our ideas to Christy for approval, and if you liked it, then we'd just carry on in that vein. And that's sort of how it works.
I think those limitations have created something really unique, though.
Yeah, definitely.
I was just going to ask, it might be a bit of a cheeky question, but were you like surprised by how it turned out, Christy? Or were you kind of following it all the way through? Or like?
Well, I was following it, but what I was surprised by was there was like the difference between the drafts and the first full edit was like, I don't know, there was like, or maybe it wasn't the first full edit, but like the first full draft and then the kind of ideas. I was like, I thought it looked really cool, but I kept sort of saying to Nick, like before, I think I'm not sure if it's going to work, but I need to see the full thing before I can really know, you know? And then when he sent me the full version finally, which wasn't the final, but it was almost the final version, I was like, oh, this is amazing. I love it, you know? So I was, in a way, I guess there was some surprise there because I had the full narrative of the video. It came together in a way that was more than, you know, better than I expected. You know, I thought what was sent to me was really cool, but then when I saw the full thing, I was like really blown away by it, actually.
Because I think it would be really funny to read those messages of me trying to explain what I was doing, where it's like, so basically there's like a pilot, but then you go inside his head, and then he sort of like leaves Earth and goes to space, and he's trying to find this like epicenter of color and vibrancy, and that was the way that I explained it to Jake and yourself, I think. So it probably was a little bit confusing.
And I was like, yeah, sure. sounds
It sounds great, man.
Yeah, man. I like color, vibrancy and stuff.
Yeah, which is why it was hard for Jake to understand things like, can you just, you know, we're heading towards this epicenter of vibrancy and creativity.
You did it.
Sounds really good. I've got another question from who. What was the process of writing the music, and how did it change throughout the recording process?
That's a very good question, because this is a tune that the first draft of it was actually made quite a long time ago, like a few years ago. So I went through this phase of like, I got Logic, right? I didn't know how to use it. And I thought, right, I need to learn how to do a bit of mixing. I need to figure out how Logic works. So I spent a lot of time watching YouTube videos. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube now to learn how to mix, and you know what all the different effects are and all that sort of stuff. And I decided that to teach myself how to use Logic and to do all this mixing stuff, I would just make some tunes. So I made these 3 electronic tunes, and I was getting really into listening to like James Blake at the time and all this kind of stuff, and like so I was trying to copy things that he was doing, and other people like Radiohead with the electronic stuff that they did. And so I made these 3 tunes. And actually the first one was a really early version of Give Me Strength. And then the second one is one that I might do something with it at some point. I don't know. But the third one though was Why Should I Care? So so I was really happy with it, and it was a really cool idea, but it was quite, you know, in a way, it wasn't really good enough to release as a proper thing. So I left that for a few years and got on with doing other things, and was writing some music. And I recorded an EP that that was okay but wasn't great. And then I took, essentially, this brings Patrick in actually. I brought some music to Patrick, and he's the producer I've been working with, and he's been a really amazing influence over the last couple of years. And he suggested I should rework some of the songs I've been doing, right? So, and I agreed, and we worked on that. And that's sort of the stuff that's coming out now, because I've got a few more things finished that are going to be released in the next few months, and that's kind of how we're going to drip things out. But I played Patrick these old electronic tunes that I made, and this one, Why Should I Care? He said, "Oh, you should definitely do something with this. This is really great. It was very individual," and I sort of agreed. Do you remember this, Patrick? Is this ringing a bell?
A bit.
Yeah. Okay, that's all right.
I mean, it's been through a lot of different phases, hasn't it?
It's a while. Yeah, it's a while. So this was how I decided. Okay, I was like, okay, then I'm going to take this song and I'm going to rework it. So basically, I took the old Logic project and just delved in, and I re-recorded a load of synths and reworked the middle section, and did some electronic drums that didn't really work, and we tried those for a while, and then we got Felix Higginbottom, my really good friend and amazing drummer, to come in and play the drums. So actually everything on this tune was either played or sung by me except the drums, which is done by Felix. I wish I could play drums as well as him, but I just can't. So we did that and added some more stuff, and then after the tune took its shape, I also re-recorded the vocals as well. There's a lot added. It'd be interesting to share the old version with people, as a little thing at some point. I'm not sure if I want people to hear it or not at this stage, but
I got you to work on the lyrics. No. You had to rewrite some of the lyrics.
I didn't rewrite the lyrics, actually. Okay. What we did was, for this one, I didn't rewrite the lyrics. I added that middle part, the I am apathy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then what we did was we switched the lyrics around in the second half. So it was like backwards, which seems to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so that was finished. Basically, the draft was finished just before lockdown. And then lockdown happened in March of 2020. And it was just when we were about to start mixing this, right? And then the mixing process took months, because this tune there's a lot going on, and it was so hard to mix when we weren't in the same room. Mm. So it turned into a bit of an ordeal for us, the mixing of this. And there was,
it sounded really good, and I'm actually quite intrigued. I kind of want to hear the older versions and see what you did with it.
Okay, I might play it to you at some point.
All right, good. But I guess this kind of brings me to, because you said a little bit about what's coming up in the future. Sylvia was asking, is there an album coming soon?
Well, I've definitely got an album's worth of stuff. Mm-hmm. Whether I'm going to release that as an album, or whether it's going to be a couple of EPs and some singles, or just singles, I haven't really decided yet, because at the moment, what I've got is going to be released as singles. So for the next few tracks, because the thing is, the music industry has changed so much that releasing albums, although it's really cool, and I really want to do an album at some point, I'm not sure whether, like, music business wise, it's the best move right now. So, so I think when I have a bit more of a budget, I would be more into doing an album. But for now, it makes more sense for me to be doing singles or smaller releases for a while, I think. That's kind of where I'm at the moment with it. But I do have enough for an album, so I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
We'll see what happens. And I've got also another question from Sylvia. Are there links between this song and your last release, which is Give Me Strength?
Well, yeah, there's a few links. So the first one is like me saying that they were both from this little they came from this little electronic project a few years ago. The Logic project, I guess, when I was learning how to. Both of them have been kind of brought to Patrick, and then, turned into what they are with help from him, and, his guidance through the production, and then the mixing that he's done on them. Both of them have Nick as the videographer, the filmmaker on the songs, and I guess both of them have, in a way, like similar themes. They're both a bit bleak.
They both have similar visual themes as well. They're both sort of mental processes.
Yeah.
But you didn't want the first one to be as explicitly sort of gaming inspiration, that sort of thing.
Right.
So
as explicitly what? Sorry.
Slightly differently. But yeah, there's similar visual themes in terms of the fish tank.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the fish tank too, right? The fish tank is really the thing that brings all of this together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they both have a similar theme in terms of like lyrical content as well. You know, striving for something more, striving for something better.
Great, thank you. That's all the questions I've got on the chat. If there are any more, obviously feel free to message. I guess we'll hold on for a little while and see. And if not, I'll just pass over to Christian for the closing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Theo's got a question. Cool.
Hi. Yeah, really nice to enjoy the video and to hear the song as well, because, you know, I've known you both for quite a long time, and also on an artistic level. I've definitely worked with Christy, and I think I've got a funny feeling I may have worked with Nick once upon a time as well.
Kind of helped me get into the industry to start with.
I don't remember that, but okay.
You've helped so many people, Teo, that it's just it's a blur.
My friend, sorry.
That's it's okay.
Yeah, no, but I did want to chip in and say it's really awesome to see, because both of you have always had the goods to start with, but it's really nice to see people's evolve in style. And I've sensed quite a big shift, I think, from this song from the last song.
Yeah, sure, definitely.
There's been just a lot, and you know, it's really exciting to see Nick's work as well, and you guys working together. I had a question which I think you possibly touched on a bit, but when you feel the sort of concept bubbling over of the song, you said that you were just trying to mash out tunes. But did you ever feel a very sort of kind of special connection with the song where you really felt like you had to get it made, or was it that you were just, you know, you were learning as you were going, and while you were learning, you were building that creative language? But did you feel that there was a message you really wanted to deliver in this? And that could also go for Nick as well, I guess. Was it more of a learning curve, trying to experiment with things during the lockdown and finding out new techniques of how to do things remotely? Or did you start to kind of strive towards a goal with the video?
Yeah, so that's a good question. That was like, I was trying to do both at the same time. So I was trying to make something that I was really like happy with artistically, you know, and then also was helping me learn how to use Logic at the same time, right? When I was first making it. But then obviously throughout this process, I hadn't even listened to the song for like, I don't know, like maybe a year, maybe 2 years. And then I went back to it and I was like, oh, I really actually feel very strongly about this, that it needs to be as good as I imagine it to be, you know, which is why I decided to kind of like take it apart and then rework it and put it out like this. So I did feel really attached to it, and the message as well. Actually, the lyrics are quite succinct, but I really like them, and I felt like they said something that I wanted to say too. So yeah, I felt really attached to it at the same time as it being starting out as a kind of educational process. It was also it was definitely both creative and educational too.
And as an artist, do you actually feel that you could let it go as well, that this was the final finished thing, that you were happy to draw a line under it? Because that's so rare, I think, sometimes.
The Patrick's laughing because it took us a while to get there.
Yeah, cool.
Right. But yes, in the end, yes, it got to the point where I thought, yeah, this is great. You know?
Yeah, it sounds amazing. It really does.
Yeah.
So well done.
Thanks very much. And there was a question for Nick there as well.
Yeah, I guess the process was very much what was sort of reflected in the film, in terms of like, it was a really helpful process to rediscover those ideas and, as you say, start to experiment within the like massive restrictions that we had at the time in every sense.
Yeah.
And I guess when it really started to take off was when we'd kind of thrown together all of these ideas, and we had the ink idea and the sort of journey from planes on the Earth to this thing in space. When I really sat down and started to play with editing things, and especially experimenting with layering that ink over the archive footage, that's when it really sort of sparked, and suddenly we had a bit more of a holistic narrative and a way of showing it as well. So it very much was a process of discovery in all the senses, from not having any sort of clear idea to having quite a strong sense of what we wanted to achieve and what we wanted to show through the visuals.
Great.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so I think people are starting to kind of go now, but I just missed one question, which Christian, you actually talked about. So you said you were influenced, or you were listening to James Blake when you were doing this, and listening to electronic musicians. But was there any other music artists that you were listening to? Someone, Shabs, was saying that it kind of felt a bit like Muse at that 2-minute build.
Like Muse?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, I wasn't listening to Muse, but I used to listen to Muse when I was a teenager. So that there might be something deep down in my soul. I had their album, the album that came out when, I don't know, I was about 14 or 15. There's some Supermassive Black Hole. That song was the one that I listened to. But no, so there are some other influences. Definitely an influence that is on this record, is this single rather, is Brad Meldau. He's a jazz piano player. And he did this album called Largo, which is experimenting with he's playing a lot of jazz stuff, but also there's a lot of electronic things going on as well. And he has some really cool sounds that he manipulates the piano sounds. And I did that, like, so the piano solo sounds a bit weird, and I was basically trying to go for a similar kind of sound that Brad Meldau has on his solo. I think there's also a thing he did with Lewis Cole, where he just played a solo on a Lewis Cole track. So Lewis Cole is this guy from a band called Noah. They also do kind of synthy electronic jazz crossover. So that was one influence. And then there was some other stuff too, like I'm trying to remember what it was, but there's this kind of synth pad chord that comes in right at the beginning, and it's in throughout the whole track, which is reversed. It's a reverse piano. Oh, the way I recorded it was I basically recorded every single note I needed for each chord. So, you know, I record that one and then record that one and then record this one, blah blah blah. Like, I recorded a ton of notes. There's so many. Like, actually, I can show you how many notes there were. Let's do.
Yeah, I could definitely hear that, like, reversed sound effects at the beginning.
Yeah,
it did sound really cool. I wasn't entirely sure if it was reversed, but yeah,
it was. Yeah, could you enable screen sharing?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so
that's actually, Chrissy, that's really interesting, because that sound that reverse note sound, is what sparked the idea of reversing the ink.
Right, so that makes sense.
Yeah, that I didn't know that it was a reverse note, but that's how we came up with the reversed ink idea.
Yeah, that's really cool. I hadn't thought of that, but of course those two things tie together really well. So okay, so you should see here, I'm just going to get to zoom audio. Now this is an older file, so this is not the full thing. I think Patrick has the final mix of this, but I just want to I'll just show you quickly how I did this, if it works, because I'm a total nerd. Okay, so here we go. This is reverse piano. Now inside here we've got These are all the notes. So let's see if we can hear this one. Do you hear that? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I just basically recorded each piano note individually and then reversed them all to get all of these chords. And this is what it sounds like. Whoops. Sorry. There we go. So this is like just a reverse piano sound. I kind of want to one day make a sample keyboard out of all of these, just so you can have like a reversed piano. It's probably already been done, but I want to make one anyway. And then this is what they all sound like at the same time. There you go. So that's a kind of weird, spooky sound that could be used somewhere. Yeah. So,
absolutely.
But I remember listening to something. The whole point of that was that there was some reversing stuff that somebody was doing that I really liked. And I was like, what could I do with that? Oh, I could make chords out of these reversed notes. And then I thought, how can I do it? If I just play a chord and reverse it, it doesn't sound right. So I realized I had to do it for all the individual notes in the chord. But I don't remember who did that, which is not very useful. But I'll think about that, and I'll email everyone individually.